Welcome to the Movienauts podcast,
where we dive into your favorite movies
and television shows every week.
I'm Garrett.
I'm Daniel.
And I'm Gavin.
And thank you for joining us for this week's installment.
We're happy you're here.
We've got a great show for you today, so sit back,
relax,
and enjoy the movie.
G'day. Today we're talking about Hunt for the Wilderpeople, shot here in New Zealand. And hopefully that is the last of my awful Kiwi accent. Seriously though, I am super stoked to talk about this movie. I'm not sure if you guys liked it. I know you guys haven't watched it until we actually decided to do this for the podcast. But I'd actually at first...
It's not the last of his Kiwi accent. He uses it all the time.
Only if I quote like anything from the movie, I'll try. I knew some Kiwis in Arizona when I lived there for a little bit. And I just thought it was like fun to listen to them. I just think their accent sounds so cool.
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know Kiwi was a accent. I just thought it was a food until just, a few days ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they call them Kiwis because there's like this funky little bird that lives in New Zealand. And I think it only lives in New Zealand. But they don't have wings. They're just like these funny little looking birds. You have to look at a picture of them. They look like they don't even have feathers. They're just like covered in fur. But
yeah. I had to look up a picture after I heard the word Kiwi. They're pretty interesting looking birds.
Yeah, they look pretty funny. But yeah,
Wikipedia confirms that you are correct.
Oh, so just New Zealand?
I think so.
Okay, nice. I'm getting pretty good at just blowing stuff out.
So fact check was successful.
Fact check. We'll just call you Actually from now on. So Hunt for the Wilderpeople. What'd you guys think?
Well, it wasn't terrible. I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. I didn't know what to expect when I watched it. Cause I never heard of it until a few weeks ago when you mentioned that this is one of the movies that you want to do on the podcast. And I know you're a big fan of the director. Mm-hmm. And I saw Thor 3 and Jojo Rabbit, and I thought they were both fairly pretty good, especially Thor 3. So I watched it with my wife, and we had a few good laughs. It was... is New Zealand humor a thing? Because if it is, then that's what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think the only New Zealand stuff I've actually watched is just stuff from Taika Waititi. I don't really know. I mean, I guess Flight of the Conchords, I think he was involved in that too. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong on that. We might have to get actually on that.
Well, he also directed some Mandalorian episodes too on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and he voiced the bounty robot. I forgot what the model of the robot. But it was that one episode where it was in the first season where they're actually going to get Grogu, and it's that one robot that has it looks like it's got like the red eyes all over that cylinder head. Yeah, but he did the voice for it. It's kind of cool. Yeah, so I'd never heard about this movie. I only actually heard about it through the grapevine from some of my friends in college. I never heard any like ads for it or like saw any kind of stuff about it online. It was just straight up just word of mouth from all my friends. I don't really know where they found it from. I think it's because I had some like theater friends in college. So like I think they branched out a little bit more into the cinema world than I did back in the day. But yeah, it's been one of my favorite movies for a long time, and I've liked the director, most of the stuff that I've seen from him. So, but what about you, Garrett?
Well, I read. Oh, sorry.
Go for it, Daniel.
I was going to say I read that it was originally released as a Sundance Film Festival film back in like 2016, and then it was released in New Zealand and in a limited time in North America too. So I wouldn't assume there's a lot of publicity for it in the States. So maybe that's why. Gotcha.
Yeah, probably. What about you, Garrett? I've been trying to get you to watch this movie for a super long time.
So first off, Waititi did write and direct one episode of Flight of the Conchords.
Oh, just one? Okay.
Yep. But I guess that's how he got to know Jermaine Clement. So there's that. 2, I can't decide if I liked or disliked this movie.
Oh, okay.
Because, and granted, this is probably things that need to be discussed a little bit later on, but there are things of the movie that I do like, but there are definitely things of the movie that I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad or a poorly done movie. I just don't know if it's my type of movie, I should say. But I'm sure we'll discuss the reasons why and everything, but that's just kind of my primary attitude toward it.
No, I mean, if we want to talk about the bad now, let's do it. What's making? You said it's not your type of movie, but like, what do you mean? Like, what is your type?
Yeah, I see what you mean. That's kind of a hard question to answer because I feel like I like a lot of movies and I like a lot of different kinds of movies, and I can understand the appeal of why this movie is so popular. I mean, Rotten Tomatoes, for crying out loud, gives it 97%.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously a lot of people like it.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure if the movie really appealed to me in particular, because there's no doubt that Taika Waititi is a talented guy. His movies they're really reminiscent of like Wes Anderson films. And when I was watching this movie, all I kept thinking was, this kind of looks like something that Wes Anderson would do. It's like the humor is really low key. It kind of flies under the radar, and it's not super obvious. Like, there's some funny things in it, but it's not slapstick by any means, and it's really, really quirky. So there were some things that I didn't like about it, namely, I think some of the gags went on a little bit too long. Like the funeral scene where Taika Waititi is involved. I mean, he acts in that scene. To me, that was really, really hard to watch. Like,
Really?
it kept going, and like the conversation that he had with somebody in the congregation about all the different doors, that was really painful for me. Like, I just wanted that gag to end already. I don't know.
I think that's hilarious.
And I and granted, I think that's the humor that he might be going for.
Yeah.
It's these like quirky little conversations that people have where they're almost aimless. Like, you don't know, it's almost improvisational, and you don't know where it's going to end up. But for me, it was pretty painful to watch.
And you mentioned that he's kind of an improvisational guy. I don't know if that was like specifically the intent on this movie. I don't know how like scripted it was, or how much of it was just like kind of off the cuff. But I did read about when he did Thor Ragnarok, that a lot of that movie was just improvisational. Like, a lot of the stuff that came out of it, he just talked to the actors and was like, this is kind of like the goal we want to go for. So like, you do what you think is funny, and just kind of went from there. So maybe it kind of did the same thing on Hunt for the Wilderpeople. I'm not sure, but I would agree with you. Like, a lot of it's very quirky, just kind of wacky humor. I think I sent you guys my notes of stuff that I thought about it, but I thought it was kind of like reminiscent of like Napoleon Dynamite. Like, there's just like a lot of weird little things that happen that maybe doesn't like really apply to the rest of the movie. But I don't know. I thought it was just kind of funny to watch in some spots.
You know, I'm glad that you brought up Napoleon Dynamite, because I had a hard time labeling this film in relation to other films that I've seen before, and I just cannot put my finger on it. But then you just said Napoleon Dynamite. I was like, you know what? That is exactly right. It just reminded me so much of that. It's a funny movie, but it's so dry and painful in some areas. I'm just like, I don't know if I could watch this. Then again, it wasn't nearly as dry as Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, true.
I haven't seen that film in over 10 years, and
Same.
I don't miss it.
That's actually one of the movies I loved growing up, was watching Napoleon Dynamite, but I haven't seen it in a while either.
I saw that one in theaters when it came out.
Oh, did
you really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we were kind of like living out in the boonies of Idaho. So, I mean, that makes sense. I think we were living in Middleton or something during that time, right?
Yep. I went with a good friend of mine, and I watched that movie, and I thought, holy crap, I just wasted like 2 hours. Because on a first watch, it was awful.
Yeah.
It was absolutely awful. And then I don't know what it was, but somehow I found myself in a position where I was watching it again, and I don't know if it's just like something clicked and I really enjoyed it. So maybe it's another situation like that. Because honestly, and maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but I probably wouldn't reach for Hunt for the Wilderpeople to watch again if it was by my choice.
Really?
So, but maybe it's another Napoleon Dynamite scenario. Maybe I just need to take the time to watch it again, and maybe I'd enjoy it more on the second time around.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think personally, like we were talking about types earlier, I just really like the quirky stuff. Like, I don't know, like one of my favorite scenes is where Taika is that minister and he's talking about behind this door is like all the nummiest of treats, like that stuff. I just thought it was so funny.
Oh, see, like that was the worst. That was the worst for me. It was so rough. It was so rough. I'm just like, oh my gosh, when is this gonna be? When is this gonna be over?
Is it vegetables?
No.
Vegetables? No.
Yeah,
Like,
Jesus.
I honestly felt like Sam Neill in the crowd in that scene. I'm just like, can we be done? And I almost walked off and like turned off the movie.
It's funny you mentioned Sam Neill because I read a quote from him one time where he's like, there were tons of funny people in this film, funny people making it, funny people acting in it, and I was the only not funny person in this movie. So I just think he didn't really share a lot of the same humor, so I think his character was like perfect for it.
I feel like throughout the whole movie, you're in the kids' shoes. Ricky Baker, is that right?
Ricky Baker.
And you're in Ricky Baker, and you're in his shoes throughout the whole film. But at the funeral, you're definitely in Hector's shoes in that area, and I felt really uncomfortable too. I was just like, I want to get this over with. Like, it's funny, but let's keep going, please.
Taika Waititi has a TED Talk.
Oh.
Yeah, and he just kind of, I think he does it in like Doha, which is like in Qatar, which is a really crazy place for a TED Talk. I don't really know they did it in like a ton of different places. I always thought TED was just like, you go to this one place and everyone comes to see it, but apparently do like independent stuff. But anyway, he did it in Doha, and his just intro is super dry, and just the way that he presents himself is like just very dry, and this kind of just like very subtle humor. But I don't know, I just relate to that type of humor, and that's I think one of the biggest reasons why I like this movie is that it's not slapstick, but in some parts it is slapstick, like some parts are very slapstick.
Like, I thought the conversation that Ricky had with the hunters in the hut, like that was perfect humor in my eyes. That was hilarious.
Yeah,
like,
that was
and that even
good.
My wife, I'll say it, she hated this movie.
Really?
And even that scene like got her laughing because it was really funny and it was really well done. And I kind of wish that more of the movie had that kind of feel. I just feel like it wasn't necessarily subtle. It was just wacky. Like it was a loony movie. And maybe people, I mean, obviously a lot of people really like that style.
Yeah.
And, but let me ask you this, kind of on Taika Waititi, why do you think that so many, like, okay, let me rephrase that. Why do you think that he has in recent past been such an acclaimed writer and director? Because I mean, Avengers latched onto him. He's directed some episodes of Mandalorian. He's going to direct a new live action Star Wars film that's coming out in the future.
Really?
So I mean, this guy came out of nowhere. And what do you think it is about him in particular that makes him so good, or I guess that makes so many projects want him in particular to direct their stuff?
I think what Gavin was saying earlier is that he lets the actors improvise in some areas, and I'm obviously no artist when it comes to films, but from what I've heard on podcasts and stuff and read, that a lot more actors are comfortable with their directors if they let them improvise a little bit more, leave the script a little bit and come back as long as it's in good relations to it. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I mean, I thought he did awesome in Thor Ragnarok. That's the best Thor of all of them. I try to forget Thor 2.
You could definitely feel like when you watch a Taika Waititi movie, like, but to me at least, by the feel of the movie, you can tell like, oh yeah, this is a Taika Waititi film. And I think it's just because of like, he has like in my mind, he does a perfect balance of like actually real emotional stuff that happens in the movie with humor. And I like if you've watched Jojo Rabbit, like there's like a ton of heavy stuff that happens in the movie. It's like it's a World War II movie. So obviously a lot of bad things are happening. And in Hunt for the Wilderpeople, like Bella Faulkner, she dies like very early on. It kind of takes you by surprise. So to me, like I think he balances emotion with humor in a way that a lot of people like. So in my mind, I think that's why a lot of people just like the stuff that he does. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that, Zelgar?
I don't know. Because I saw Thor Ragnarok, and I would agree that Thor Ragnarok is the best of the three so far. And actually, he's going to direct the newest one, too.
Yeah, Love and Thunder.
Right.
If we ever get new movies again.
Yeah, seriously. There's no doubt that this guy has directing chops. Like he can direct good movies. But I just think that like the stuff that he directs that is his, it's kind of on the alternative side of things. And granted, I haven't seen Jojo Rabbit, so I can't say that I know that 100%, but from what I've seen of him, he does seem a little on the alternative side of things. He doesn't have like the feel of a mainstream director like a Spielberg or anybody else like that. His movies are very unique.
Yeah.
And you can tell that even when he's directing something like Thor or The Mandalorian, that his style is kind of peppered throughout.
Yeah.
Either with conversations or the type of humor that he puts in those things. You can definitely tell that it's like his signature thing. But I think it's just different when he's working with his own stuff versus when he's working with other people's stuff. Because I thought he did Thor Ragnarok really well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I thought that because he finally directed one of the better Marvel characters the way that he should have been directed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's just because the first two were really bad. I'm not sure, but that's kind of what I think. You can definitely tell that he has chops, but I'm just not sure if I really like his original stuff versus when he is given the reins of other people's stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, and he's done, I think he did two. I'm sure he's done more in between the first two. But he did, his first two movies, I think, were called Shark and Boy. Shark, Boy. Not Shark and Boy was like one movie. But apparently those were two very critically acclaimed movies too. And I would have to go and watch those to kind of understand why. But yeah, I just think it's something that a lot of people haven't really seen in the movies. Like you said, it's not what Spielberg usually does, or like Scorsese, or all these huge like directors and producers and all that kind of stuff. So I just think it's something different. People are I don't know. Like think about like Queen. Like Queen was such a different band, and like people latched onto him, and I think it's just something people maybe they didn't know they liked, but are like, yeah, we really want more of this.
It's just crazy though at the rate that he's getting new projects.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh yeah, well let's come direct Mandalorian, come direct Thor, come direct a new live action Star Wars movie that's coming out in the near future. It just seems like he's being snatched up so quickly, but apparently a lot of people like him.
Yeah.
Especially by like big production companies like Disney. That's a huge production company these days, especially with Thor and then the next Star Wars. I mean, I was just looking, he's going to be in the next Suicide Squad film as well. I mean, he's in a lot of stuff, and I don't know, maybe I'm just guessing here. Maybe people are liking him so much because he's just a breath of fresh air. He's a new person. He's a new director that no one's used to yet. And somehow he just hits people's hearts pretty well. I mean, I don't want to say that all his movies are pretty relatable, because no one can really relate to Thor or The Mandalorian in that way. But Jojo Rabbit, I saw Jojo Rabbit, and I just saw Hunt for the Wilderpeople, and they're very realistic, believable movies in some ways. I mean, Gavin, maybe you can agree with me with this because you've seen Jojo Rabbit, right?
Yeah, I loved Jojo Rabbit.
I mean, Jojo Rabbit, not to get too far into it, because I would love to talk about this film one of these episodes, but that movie was hilarious. And then it just hits you like a brick wall in one scene, which I will not talk about right now. And it just changes the film from night to day. And I was like, wow, my wife loved it too.
Yeah, I think that's like I said earlier, that's one of the reasons why I like Taika, is because his movies are just, they balance humor and then like they just slap you in the face with like something like emotional and real to attach to.
Yeah, that's got to be it.
Yeah. Yeah, when I first watched Hunt for the Wilderpeople, like that scene made me so stinking sad. Like when Bella is just lying on the ground and Sam Neill's like crying, because like it's like this kid finally has like a good home to be in, and then it's just like boom, like you got to figure out something else, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was sad.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with you there, but I found it very predictable.
Really?
It's just, it was necessary for her to die, for Ricky to get along with Uncle Hector.
Yeah.
It was necessary for that to happen. I don't think that would have happened. I don't think they would have gotten along if it wasn't for her to pass away.
Yeah.
Because she was always there. She was always comforting Ricky no matter what. So,
yeah.
I mean, I was sad when I saw it. But when
Yeah.
it happened, I was like, yeah, okay, she's dead. I kind of figured that was going to happen soon, or something like that.
Did you also notice that Ricky wears Bella's hat like basically the rest of the movie?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool how they did that. Like she wears like this beanie cap, I think, where they're like pulling all the fur off the whatever those little animals are. And then like yeah, when she dies, he ends up wearing that beanie cap like the whole time they're in the woods.
Oh no, I did not notice that. That's a good thing for me to look at next time.
It's also fun to note that this is the second Sam Neill movie we've talked about.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
Love Sam Neill.
I really like Sam Neill. You know, a movie that he was really good in was Daybreakers. If you ever saw Daybreakers,
yeah,
that was a fun one.
I did. Oh man, that was a great movie.
What's that about?
Him and Ethan Hawke, it was a vampire movie.
Yep. Apparently there's a shortage on human blood in the vampire world, so they have to figure things out. I liked it. I don't think they got the best of ratings, but it was a good one.
That and Event Horizon was also good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good too.
Oh, speaking of Sam Neill, coming back to Taika Waititi, he was also in Thor. Sam Neill was for like Thor 3
really?
for a super short time.
Who did he play?
Who was it?
So it's like when Thor gets back to Asgard and they're doing like that play where it's like it's acting as Odin and Loki.
Oh, Matt Damon was in there too.
Matt Damon was in there
That's
too,
Matt
yeah. For like 5 seconds. I don't know how they did that.
So who did he play though? Sam Neill.
Oh, so Sam Neill played the actor playing Odin. Yeah.
Oh.
I'd have to watch it again. I only saw that once, and it was a few years ago.
Or maybe it wasn't Odin, but like some person like narrating the play or something like that. Yeah, it was pretty funny. I thought it was.
Okay. I was gonna say, rewinding a little bit, you're talking about like something shark.
Yeah.
Something about a shark. I think it's Eagle versus Shark.
What?
That's what the film is called. You were talking about something about a shark a few minutes ago with Taika Waititi about a film that he made. You couldn't remember what it was called, so
I thought it was just Shark.
Well, I found something called Eagle versus Shark, so I don't know if that was it or not.
That one looks like a pretty wacky one too, just based on the cover art.
Plus, it's Jermaine Clement, so
I think Jermaine's freaking hilarious.
He's pretty funny.
I really liked him in Flight of the Conchords. I thought he was really funny.
Yeah, I've got work now. I've got to go. What does he say in that movie or that song? I'm gonna go to bed now. I've got work in the morning. Yeah, I just think this movie is like very quotable. Like I don't know about you guys, but like I always watch this with like a lot of my friends in college, because I think this is like it was free. So when I went to BYU Idaho, they had like this streaming service through the school where you can just watch a bunch of stuff through their library. And I think this one was on their library. So like basically anytime like we were at a friend's house and like we should watch a movie, like we're always like, let's watch Hunt for the Wilderpeople. So I don't know. And most of my friends at college liked it. But I've showed this movie to 2 people, or I guess 3 people in my family. No, I actually showed it to everyone in my family. Like our sister Paige watched this, and I showed it to mom and dad. And Paige loved it, but mom and dad hated it, and didn't sound like Garrett liked it either. So I meant like not a great percentage for family members getting on the boat. But that's okay. But yeah, whenever I watch it, go for it.
I just don't think this movie is like super accessible to the casual viewer.
Why is that?
I think, well, I was, yeah, I was talking about it earlier, and I think that if I were like a freshman or a sophomore,
Mm-hmm.
like a film student in school, I would really like this movie
Mm.
because it is kind of artsy and it's really particularly done in kind of like, I mean, it's a Sundance movie, right? So it premiered at a film festival. So I think it may not appeal to the casual moviegoer. And I could be wrong, but it kind of felt that way to me watching it.
Do you think he was trying to be like too artsy?
No, I don't think it was trying to be too artsy. I just think that that's his style
Oh,
of filmmaking. Like I said, it's kind of like Wes Anderson. Like
Yeah.
Wes Anderson movies are not for everybody, even though they are very much acclaimed
yeah.
and well-loved movies. I just don't think that the casual moviegoer, especially like those that are over 50 years old. Yeah, that could sound mean, but it's true though. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's kind of wacky and it's kind of
Yeah.
quirky, and it's almost like an art house movie. And even though a lot of people like it, and they are technically well done, I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion, but that's kind of what I thought when I was watching it.
It's funny you mentioned Wes Anderson because for the most part, I pretty much hate Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah, they're hard to watch.
The only two I like are Isle of Dogs and kind of Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I love Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think that's a good movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, I think when I watched it, there were so many people when I was watching it. Everyone's just like, oh yeah, Wes Anderson, Wes Anderson, Wes Anderson. And I think I was just trying to be just trying to stay away from the bandwagon. So maybe that's why I have a bad taste in my mouth. But I love Isle of Dogs. I thought that was a really good one.
Which is funny that you mentioned Wes Anderson and bandwagon in the same sentence, because I don't think those two go together very well.
Why is that?
Well, kind of like what I was saying before. I think Wes Anderson, he does good work,
Oh, okay.
but he does have a really particular style to all of his movies.
Gotcha.
And it may not appeal to anybody that sits down to watch it.
I think I'm the kind of person where if everyone around me is like, oh yeah, watch this, I think I naturally just kind of like, I don't want to watch it anymore. Which sounds like really juvenile, but yeah, I think at the time I just wasn't a big fan.
So would you guys say that Taika Waititi is one of those directors, it takes a certain person to watch those films, like you were just saying, like Wes Anderson, or maybe even Woody Allen in some aspects, or Tim Burton?
I would say no. And although we have talked about how Hunt for the Wilderpeople is kind of like I think Garrett put it well, like it kind of feels like an art house movie and it's just kind of different from other stuff we've seen. But like Taika Waititi, like Jojo Rabbit was nominated for an Oscar, for heaven's sakes. Like, I don't know. And maybe not every movie that has been nominated for Oscar, maybe I wouldn't like every single one that's been nominated, but like, I don't know, like he's up there and everyone loved Thor. So I don't know. I think his movies are more accessible than maybe Hunt for the Wilderpeople feels.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just asking. Open-ended question.
I think Tim Burton, though, I mean, comparing Tim Burton and Taika Waititi, I mean, Tim Burton definitely has more, like, classic films under his belt than, say, Taika Waititi does. And I think there is a movie out there that Tim Burton has done that pretty much anybody can sit down and watch, or at least I phrased that wrong. I think Tim Burton has at least one movie that anybody, no matter who you are, can sit down and enjoy it and not have to think too hard about it. And I don't know if this is necessarily the case. And maybe it is, especially since he's getting into Marvel and Star Wars. That's probably not going to be the case anymore. Because I think anybody that watched Ragnarok would say that that was a good movie, because it was. It was a really good movie. And it was obviously the best of the three, and it was a fun movie. And he brought some lightheartedness that movie desperately needed, and he did it really well. I guess my argument is that his own stuff may seem a little bit less mainstream, and maybe not quite as accessible as, say, the directions that he's done on Mandalorian or Thor might be. When he's given free reign, I should say. And by the way, it was IG-11 on The Mandalorian is the name of the robot.
IG-11.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
That was a cool episode.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. It was pretty good. Yeah, man, I don't know. I just think Hunt for the Wilderpeople has this great story. I mean, there's a lot of stories out there where that's about kids learning how to grow up and stuff like that. And although I was reading online about it, just like seeing what other people thought about it, and there was someone that mentioned that this one had like a ton of eerie similarities to Up, because it's about this old guy who loses his wife, meets this annoying kid, and they have to go through the wilderness. They meet some crazy guy in the wilderness while being chased by people. And then at the end of the movie, they somehow find themselves being able to be a part of each other's lives.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, neither did I.
Plus, they see a crazy bird in the wilderness too. So,
Holy crap! I didn't even make that connection.
mind blown.
Good job, man.
Someone on the internet, I think it was IMDb. Thank you very much. Yeah, I just feel like
I love the internet.
I feel like this movie's so quotable. Anytime I talk about it with our friends, like some of my friends, we always just quote the movie. I just think it's hilarious.
I will say that one of my favorite parts is when they were reading that Wanted paper, and he could not pronounce Caucasian. He's like, "Well, you're clearly white. You're not Caucasian."
You're obviously white. Yeah, or the part where the hunters came in, that was pretty hilarious. You bloody pervert.
They think I'm a criminal. And Asian.
And Asian. Oh, gangster, you should have a teardrop tattoo. Yeah, pretty good. This movie also made me want to go to New Zealand more than any other movies that I've seen in New Zealand.
I said the same thing last night.
More than Lord of the Rings did?
More than Lord of the Rings, yeah.
I think it's another case of kind of like what Walter Mitty had.
Mm-hmm.
Because they used New Zealand to portray a world that didn't exist in the Lord of the Rings. But then in this movie, it's like, this is what New Zealand looks like, and this is like the actual country of New Zealand.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the same thing with Walter Mitty in Iceland. Like, they've filmed plenty of films in Iceland that portrays something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But then Walter Mitty comes in and says, well, this is actually Iceland, and this country is just breathtakingly gorgeous. And I think Waititi did the same thing with New Zealand in this movie.
Yeah, I definitely want to go there someday. I don't know how much it costs to get there, but yeah, it just looks beautiful. Made me want to go live out, like to live out in the woods, like Uncle Hick did in the bush. Yeah, I think that would just be fantastic.
Not to mention that New Zealand was one of the first countries in the world to completely beat the virus too.
Oh, really? Are they back to normal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think
temporarily.
so.
I think that didn't they get it again? I might be wrong. I don't know. I thought they did.
I bet it's easier to regulate there though, because they're just the tiny little island.
Yeah, they're like the size of Colorado.
Is that how big they are?
Yeah.
Dang.
Which brings me back to the movie. I was surprised. Granted, I've been to Colorado, but I've never been to the entire state. I have not walked the entire state. I was surprised by how big New Zealand is, just like where they were going and how long they were gone for in the movie.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, are they still in New Zealand? Like, did they have to film somewhere else to get these footages? I've never been to New Zealand, so I couldn't say.
Yeah.
But seeing that compared to like the Lord of the Rings, I was really, really shocked to see that. And New Zealand just seems like such a beautiful place. And
yeah,
even since Lord of the Rings, I've wanted to go and see it. But seeing this movie made me want to go and see it even more.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's like the same thing Garrett said. Like, it's not like these crazy places that look completely different from everything else. It just looks like this is normally what it looks like in most of the country. And that, I don't know, that just appeals to me.
That is something that my wife and I heavily commented on when we were watching this movie.
Really?
Like, holy cow, that looks good. Like, all the set pieces look really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And they definitely chose some great locations to shoot. So I will give them that.
Yeah.
That, and it's a kind of another case of what happened in Walter Mitty. It's like the geography is almost like a co-star or like another major character in the story itself, because it really they established that the geography and the bush and everything is really important at the beginning of the movie. So it almost acts like another character.
Yeah.
Like everything they do is motivated by kind of the conditions that they're living in.
And that makes a lot of sense too, because Bella at the beginning talks about like how she came from like the sky, like where some lake where like the ocean meets the sky. She was kind of like a spiritual person, and it kind of comes up multiple times throughout the movie.
Yeah, I can see that too. I mean, I would agree with you. There was a part of the movie I was really confused about. It's because it's something we don't have here in the States, is that when they were out there in the wilderness, being Wilderpeople, they would just randomly go into these shacks in the middle of nowhere. I was like, is this their place? I thought that was his own little shack that he had for like hunting purposes.
No.
And he went in there, and then someone else came in too, and so I was really confused for a bit. I finally caught on, but were you guys feeling the same way?
I feel like I caught it pretty early.
They're like communal hunting cabins.
Yeah.
And we actually have some of those here. Like if you...
What we do?
Yeah, I've researched into like some of the bigger trails that a lot of people will travel. Like they have the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Appalachian Trail. Appalachian, depending on who you're talking to. I probably said it horribly wrong the first time. But yeah, on these huge trails, there are like random houses where it's just kind of like a respite from the trail. Like you have bunks and just a dry place to sleep, and sometimes people will leave like other stuff there for other people to come by and pick it up, and kind of cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. And I compared it a lot to where I live out here in, I don't know if you guys have that where you live. We have like these random bookshelf houses throughout the city of where I live. And it's like a take a book, leave a book situation. They're sometimes by bus stops. They're sometimes in random neighborhoods.
Oh, that's cool.
And you could pick up random books, or you can deposit your own books there too if you want. So that's what I thought of when I was watching the movie in relations to that. But I didn't know that we had something like that in the States, like what you were just talking about, Gavin.
Yeah, actually, when I went to Oregon a couple months ago, we went on this hike. And I'm pretty sure this part of the hike didn't connect to the PCT. And maybe it was part of like a bigger trail back in the day. But yeah, there was just some built huts out in the middle of the woods just for you to sleep in. I thought it was kind of cool. Like if you're on a huge, they call it through hiking. We were just hiking for like months at a time. Like I would think a place like that would be like a godsend. Like it would just be amazing to sleep under a roof.
I would agree, absolutely. So through hiking, yeah, I just looked it up. So cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool to go do like little sections of the PCT. I don't know if I could do months at a time, because like people will like quit their jobs just to go hike like these trails, and I think it'd be an awesome journey. But I don't know if I'd be willing to quit my job for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it when I'm retired. I would want to do it when I'm younger. So maybe if we pitch in and go into the lottery together.
Let's do it.
All three of us.
Yeah, people will do those things and they'll come out like 30 pounds lighter than they did when they started, just because, I mean, you're exerting yourself all day, every day. What did you think about like other character interactions in the movie? Like we just meet a lot of like weird people in this movie.
Yeah, I couldn't stand the social worker.
Yeah.
I really hated her character.
Because she's a very annoying person to watch.
I feel like she tried too hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about it. I was like, do I not like her because she's a bad actor, or do I not like her just because of her character?
Yes.
Yes. And in my mind, I thought she played a horrible person, but I didn't think she was a bad actor. I think she was funny for the person that she was playing. But yeah, I think like I was comparing it to like Andy in the first couple seasons of The Office. Like I freaking hate Andy in the beginning of The Office because he's just such an annoying person to watch.
He's a suck up.
He's a suck up. He's a brown noser. Yeah. He's disgusting.
But he's even worse in the later seasons.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, he's just super painful in the last seasons too. And I felt the same way about Paula Hall. I just thought she was annoying to watch, but I didn't think it was because she was a bad actor.
I think one of the weirdest parts of the movie for me is when Ricky went to go get help, and he went to that person's house.
Oh yeah.
And the dad was just the weirdest guy in the movie. and he kind of annoyed me. He just seemed like that like a kickback brother or that lazy dad that no one really that he doesn't care about or he doesn't care about much. And he just wanted selfie pictures with Ricky the whole time, and like I get the humor from it, but it really went nowhere, you know?
That's what I thought too. Because I thought that was another gag that I thought went on for too long. And and there was no payoff for it. Like, there was no reason that scene ever had to be there because it didn't materialize later in the plot at all, except that they show it on the news that some of his tweets got likes or retweets or whatever. But, like, that was it. It didn't really contribute to a whole lot.
Well, I mean, with the family that he meets with the girl and the Maori guy, the dad, he actually ends up living with them after that court hearing, if you guys remember that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I've met a lot of people from New Zealand, and I don't know. I just think they're just laid back people. Like, they're just pretty chill, and just super lighthearted and funny. They just love to laugh and have fun. So to me, it made sense. I thought it was funny to watch. Again, we're just kind of getting back into the stuff of I like the quirkiness of Taika Waititi, and some people don't, and that's totally fine. It definitely connects with the rest of the movie, where Ricky ends up living with them. I don't know their names, but
I don't remember. I did like the birthday song, the birthday party that they had. I did like that.
Ricky Baker.
I think it was just long enough before it got too much and too painful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the best part, just to end it all, is when he blew up the candles and all the smoke got into Sam Neill's face.
He just coughs like he doesn't even care.
Yeah, one cough. He's like, "I'm just here because my wife wants to do this."
He admits that later too.
Yep, he did.
Yeah,
because he said, Bella wanted you, not me.
Yeah,
and or Bella wanted to have a kid and not me. So
yeah, and that made me sad too, because it made me sad because it shows you like how good of a character Bella was. Like, she was just a very loving and kind person, and she just loved like taking care of people. So that's why I was really sad when you finally find out that she dies super early on in the movie. But another fun fact about the birthday song, the reason why they came up with that song was because apparently it costs anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000 to include a birthday song in a movie because of the copyrights for it. So I think the actor,
ridiculous.
I know, it's crazy. So the actor who plays Bella, I think, had the most, work contributed to making the trifecta Ricky Baker song. So yeah, that's where it came from.
Well, I think legally too, you can't even sing "Happy Birthday" at your own birthday party without paying a royalty.
Wow.
I owe whoever wrote that song a lot of money then.
Yeah, you can have it when I'm dead. That's ridiculous. That's crazy.
I heard of someone a little while ago. It was their birthday, a pretty popular person, and someone started singing "Happy Birthday" in a crowd, and the whole crowd started singing along.
Mm-hmm.
And that person got in trouble because they did it without permission.
That's so ridiculous,
right?
Although I hate it when people sing "Happy Birthday" to me, because you have like this. I don't know. I feel like I always do this like awkward smile, and I don't really know who to look at when people are like singing at like parties.
You have to like sit there and do nothing and just take it.
Yeah, especially if you're like in the middle of a circle.
Yeah, you're just sitting there.
Or when someone does it to you at a restaurant.
Oh yeah, that too. That's the worst.
Or when I was in choir growing up, our choir teacher he'd sing "Happy Birthday," and then at the end he would keep playing the song, and everyone would sing like "Skip Around the Room." I don't know if people have done that to you. It's probably more popular than I thought it was, but he would literally like just keep playing the song until like you make a lap around the room. It was ridiculous.
See, this is why I'm grateful my birthday is in the summertime when school is not in session.
Me too.
I'm the youngest in my class. That's fine, and it's well worth it.
Yeah, the first year I was in choir, I like sat there and like they literally just kept singing it. I was like, oh my gosh. But at least, the faster you get it done, the faster it's done. So it's better than listening to "Happy Birthday," in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Okay, so we've talked about what we don't like about the movie. A lot of quirkiness. So how would you change the movie to make it even better, in your opinion? to either of you.
I think if you were to change what's already in the movie, you would kind of be taking away from Taika Waititi's style of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Like, even though I think that some of the gags went on for way too long, that's kind of his signature. Like, it's kind of what he does. Like I said, it's like these little aimless conversations that it's not necessarily the content of the conversation that's funny. It's the fact that that conversation is happening at all is supposed to be funny. So I think if you were to shorten that, yeah, it may make it a little bit more comfortable for the audience, but honestly, that's kind of his thing. So I don't know if I'd necessarily change that, even though it's not my cup of tea. But that's kind of my opinion on that.
I honestly wouldn't know how to change this movie. I don't know what should be changed. Well, the only thing I would want changed is the whole stupid dad thing who just wanted pictures the whole time. But other than that, I don't really know what I would change, because this wasn't one of those movies that are based off of true events or another superhero movie. It is based off a book that I have not read.
Wild Pork and Watercress.
Have you guys read that?
I have not.
I wonder if it's in relation to the book a lot, because Jojo Rabbit was related to a book, is based off a book as well,
Really?
and it was a night and day difference. So, and like, I've read reviews on the book of Jojo Rabbit, and people are like, this has nothing to do with the movie at all. So, I didn't dislike A Hunt for the Wilderpeople. I thought it was quirky in some areas, and I think the dry sense of humor drug on just long enough to where it wasn't terrible. It was like Taika Waititi's length of humor. I was telling Garrett this a while back. I have a hard time with British humor.
Really?
So when I started this movie, I was really worrying that this was the case, and I'm glad that was not the case. Like, I'm gonna get murdered for this, but I cannot stand Monty Python. I just cannot stand it.
How dare you?
I know. I get that all the time.
What about the IT Crowd? Have you seen that show?
I haven't.
That is a great show.
I love that. I love British humor. I think it's hilarious.
Although I would preface that and say that you would enjoy that show more if you were an IT professional as well.
That's a big reason why I like that show so much. For working in IT, just because it's a lot of relatable stuff. But dang, like, there are other situations that happen in the show that are just, I think, genius.
I'll have to give it a shot.
Yeah.
I've heard good things about it.
It's kind of similar to what is that show? Oh, Flight of the Conchords.
See, that's another show I haven't seen yet.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that type of humor. For me though, I think the only part I think I dislike about the movie is the whole chase at the end. Like, I think it gets kind of ridiculous. But yeah, I don't know. That's about me. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, the scope of the chase didn't necessarily match the scope of the movie.
Or the scope of, like, why it's such a big deal. Like, why would they have tanks, like, come chase these people down?
I didn't even know that New Zealand had a military.
They
honestly.
don't have a military, actually.
Really?
Yeah. According to How to Dad YouTube channel. I think I sent you guys a video. But yeah, there's a video where he talks about, like, differences between America and New Zealand. And he's like, yeah, America has, like, this huge, amazing military, and New Zealand sold, like, their last fighter jet, like, 20 years ago. So don't invade us. But yeah, they don't really have much of a military. Like, I think they have police forces, so that's probably where those things came from, is, like, maybe, like, major SWAT type things. But yeah, not much of a military.
I was saying, World War I, you had the Anzac, which was it was Australia and New Zealand, so I wonder if they kind of worked in partnership with Australia more than having their own defense force.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I also hear there's this weird, like, rivalry between people in New Zealand and people in Australia. I don't know much about it, but I think it's there.
So is New Zealand, like, I know New Zealand and Australia are very different, but is New Zealand part of the continent of Australia?
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
because Australia is a country and a continent.
I don't think New Zealand belongs to a continent. I think it belongs to Polynesia.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
you're probably right.
I was just wondering because they're so close to each other.
What does the Google say? New Zealand is not part of the continent of Australia, but a separate submerged continent of Zealandia. Interesting, according to Wikipedia.
It looks like they actually have an army too.
Oh, New Zealand? Okay, well, New Zealand dad was wrong.
It was founded in 1845, 175 years ago, and it's been in every single war since the New Zealand Wars. If that
Whoa,
means
what are
anything to
those?
you guys, that was before World War One.
New Zealand Wars. Interesting. I have to do some digging on that. I didn't. Yeah, because after I watched that YouTube video, it didn't sound like they had a military video. But I guess you don't trust everything you hear on the internet.
Yeah, just Facebook.
Oh man, don't get me started.
That's why I don't vaccinate my children. That's a lie, by the way.
And thanks for joining us for this week.
Quick, cut it.
Sorry, I had to throw in my political thing. I'm done.
Maybe we should have a separate channel for politics. That would be interesting. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I've expressed most of the stuff that I like most about this movie. If you guys have anything else you want to share, I'd be more than happy to talk about it. But I feel like we're kind of getting down to nubbins as far as my notes go.
So Gavin, would you say that these are, you might have said this in the past, but would you say that this is a movie that you could watch really anytime, whenever you want?
Yeah, I think I could. I feel like I've watched it enough times to like memorize the sequences already. So actually when I watched it last night, I was like, I had played out in my mind, like, cause I think I had other things I needed to do. So I was like playing in my mind, like, okay, like they have to go through the chase first and then they have to do the court thing. And then they have to have that little like heartfelt moment outside the halfway house and then the movie's over. So like if you asked me if I'd watch this again tomorrow, I'd probably say no, but just because I've seen it a million times. But I still love the movie.
Maybe not that soon, but maybe a few times a year without any problem.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I felt with Chef, the last episode that we did.
Yeah,
and that's also how I feel with like Jurassic Park and a few other movies. So I can kind of get what you're getting at.
Gotcha.
With that. But no, I didn't think the movie was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely different. Taika Waititi, I'm never going to pronounce his name right.
You gotta say it with Kiwi accent.
Oh, Kiwi.
Balactic. Just kidding.
His films are just different in general,
yeah.
And maybe it'll just take some time for me to get used to it. I think if you were to compare Hunt for the Wilderpeople against Thor Ragnarok, it's going to be hard to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because under Thor Ragnarok, that's more like under Marvel Studios and Disney, which is American based, not so much New Zealand. So I can't really compare that, even though it's the same director.
Yeah. Yeah, I also think he probably had a lot more creative control in Wilderpeople than he would have in...
Yeah. Well, it was an independent film originally.
Yeah, so it's like whatever he wants to do. Yeah.
So, but if someone were to ask me about this movie, I'd say, yeah, give it a shot.
Yeah.
See how you like it. I mean, I thought it was okay, but yeah, give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I felt.
Right on.
I did think that the ending with the car chase was a little extreme, like what you guys were saying.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you guys have a truck now. That's random.
Grumpy.
Oh, everybody else has cars now. That's random, but okay.
I will say one more thing about the movie. This is, I was very sad that the only guy that shared my name in the movie looked like a total dweeb.
Which one's that?
His name was Gavin, obviously, but he was the guy that was talking about the Stingray,
which is a real device, by the way.
Yeah, it's real. But it's funny because when I watch this with my friends, they'll be like, "Hey, that's a nerdy IT type guy," and they're like, "Hey, looks just like you." I'm like, "Oh,
it does." I thought that when I saw it. I thought it was funny.
I didn't know Gavin was in this movie. Yeah, my name's Gav. Talking about a Stingray. But yeah, kind of funny.
I don't know. If I were to give this film a rating out of 10, I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10.
6.
Mm-hmm.
Understandable.
It'd be a 5 for me.
Ooh, ouch. For me, it would be a 9, the highest rating I've ever given.
Oh my gosh, that's too high.
9.1 actually.
9.1.
Yeah, and it's for those reasons I mentioned earlier. I think I love the balance between wacky humor and relatable drama. And a lot of things I guess are not as relatable. But as far as like the story goes of like, I don't know, like kids not really having a lot of places to go growing up and just finding someone to kind of latch onto and look up to, I think it's well done in my opinion. So yeah, I love the balance, love the creativity and style of Taika Waititi, and that's why I gave it a score.
That's cool. That's
Fair
cool.
enough.
I did like how the movie did take place in the kid's eyes for the most part. Ricky's eyes, not so much of Hector's.
Yeah.
I did like that part.
Yeah.
Although I will say I did like, I thought it was really funny when they did like an intense close-up zoom to every time someone pulled out a knife to like stab a pig or something.
Yeah.
Made it really dramatic. That made me laugh a lot.
Where she pulls out the knife and just mutilates the pig.
Totally out of nowhere, but it was funny.
Yeah, I love how like when you see like the spurts of blood and then you just like see like this quick flash of just like nothing but red on the screen. That was pretty funny.
I did enjoy that part. I thought that part was really funny.
All right, dinner's ready.
It's dinner sorted. Or the part where he's like, so when are you gonna name your dog? He's like, probably like Megatron or Tupac. She's like, what's a Tupac? And he's like, oh, he's like a Ripper. He's like my best friend. I think it's so funny. Yeah. Anyways. Well, anything else?
I think I'm good. Garrett, you're up next week, right?
I am.
What World War II movie are we watching this time?
It is not a World War II movie this week. Yeah. It's actually a new movie, but I think I'm going to keep that under wraps until next week.
Alrighty.
Roger that. Well, cool. Well, thanks everyone for stopping in and listening. And I recommended to go watch this movie, and not so much from the other guys, but
You don't have to, though.
yeah, we hope you enjoyed listening, and we look forward to seeing you next time.